Ladies and gentlemen, today I've got a very special episode of Bum to Billionaire for you guys because this time it's not about money. Instead, it's about taking on the hardest challenge in all of GTA Online, which is the Doomsday Heist. And I'm not just gonna do the Doomsday Heist as usual. That's not why this is hard. Oh no. Instead, I'll try and get the Criminal Mastermind 2 achievement for this heist, which requires 0 deaths on all setups and finales. I have to do it all on hard mode, and I've also got to play with the same teammate from start to end for my loyalty bonus. No pressure, right? Okay. So my usual crew wasn't available for this heist, which is why I decided to go with a pair of randoms from the heist team's Discord. I didn't know if these guys were veterans, absolute scrubs, or somewhere in between, but I've got a challenge to complete, and these guys were the only people I could find because nobody plays Doomsday anymore. It's simply too hard and complex for the average Kaio spammer. So what we're gonna do right now is complete Act 1 of the heist. If everything goes well here, the 3 of us know that we have a chance of doing the other 2. And my biggest concern right now isn't the actual mission design in Act 1. Rather, it's the series of glitches in Doomsday that still haven't been patched to this day, and these can actually cause you to lose your criminal mastermind progress completely out of nowhere, even though you didn't die during the missions. I've done the heist before on this account, and one of those glitches prevented me from securing the challenge. Otherwise, I would have released this video a lot earlier. The other time, my teammate died while we were doing the heist, but hey, let's not dwell on the past. Instead, let's look toward the future. And right now, we're doing the preparations for the first act, which is called Data Breaches. If you guys didn't know, Doomsday has 2 kinds of setup missions. First, you have the preparations, and then the actual setup missions themselves, which count towards your criminal mastermind progress. You technically can die in the preps without jeopardizing the status of your mastermind challenge, but these are relatively easy, so if you don't pass the fights here, you've got absolutely no hope of making it in the finale, and that's why we'll try our best not to mess things up, even if the stakes are low. Now, the first prep is called paramedic equipment, and this one's super easy. We steal an ambulance so we can later use it during the prep mission to infiltrate the coroner's office. Why are we infiltrating the coroner's office, you ask? So we can grab a memory stick from a dead federal agent and use it to retrieve data which will give us a lead on some kind of international conspiracy that threatens to drag all of the United States into a war or Doomsday Scenario or something like that. The why isn't as important right now. We just need to grab that memory stick. So we successfully get to the medical center where our ambulance is waiting for us, and while my teammates deal with the security guards and grab the vehicle, I'm gonna bring in my Iron Mule so I can airlift them back to the facility, and this is gonna be a whole lot faster than driving there. Perfect. Couldn't ask for a better landing than that. Practically a 5-star limousine ride, right? After successfully completing our first prep, we move on to the second one, and this time we're stealing some Deluxos. These are just the unmodified ground-only versions of the cars because they haven't been equipped with Lester tech just yet, but we still need them to make those flying Deluxos later. And to get those cars, we'll have to gun down a team of security guards at this mansion here and find the security chief who's got the garage keys. I of course had an oppressor, which made the task of murdering the entire security force quite trivial. I grabbed the key, went to the garage, headshotted this obese mechanic, picked the red car, and headed out. My team grabbed the other 2 Deluxos, then we simply drove back in our fancy 80s sports cars and got a fresh coat of paint at LS Customs to hide our trail so nobody knows who these cars were stolen from. And done. These vehicles have now been delivered to the facility. I'd say this was a pretty easy mission, all things considered. For the third and final prep of Act 1, we're upping the stakes once again. Prep 1 was an ambulance, Prep 2 was the Deluxo, and now for Prep 3, we're going all in and stealing an Akula stealth attack helicopter from Fort Zancudo. For this one, we've split up into 2 teams. I'm gonna infiltrate Fort Zancudo with my oppressor and my fake security pass, while my teammates wait for me to upload the Akula's flight plan. As soon as they have the coordinates, they'll break into the facility where it's being stored and fly away with the chopper. By splitting our workload like this, we can complete this mission much faster. After stealing the chopper, my team flies it back to the giant underground facility for safekeeping, and we successfully finish the third and final prep mission of Act 1, which means it's now time for the setups, and this is the part where nobody is allowed to die, and we also need to be in hard mode for it. So setup number 1, it's called Dead Courier, and our goal here is to disguise ourselves as paramedics, using the equipment we stole earlier, and we'll also take that stolen ambulance and drive it straight to the LS County Coroner's office where they're holding the body of the dead agent. Everything was all going along smoothly until I failed to find the memory stick on the dead body, so I had to take out a bunch of FIB agents on the highly secured upper floor of the coroner's office and steal the data from one of their laptops, at which point the FIB sent the whole goon squad after me along with a bunch of LSPD cops. While all this was happening, Team 2 managed to recover the dead agent's Savage helicopter, and they used it to provide cover for me while I made my way out of the medical center with the cursed memory stick. Honestly, the Savage backup wasn't really necessary, but all 3 of us need to be together in this chopper to complete the mission, so that's what we'll do. And with that, the drop off is complete for the memory memory stick, and we should now have the data that we need for our next setup mission. Also, if you guys are ever going to attempt this heist, make sure that all players are present in the planning room before we launch a setup mission, because for some reason, the game glitches out and forgets your Doomsday progression if someone's out on their own property or in free roam, even if they're an associate of yours. So just to be safe, make sure everyone's a CEO and present in the room when the action kicks off. So our second setup is called Signal Intercepts, and once again, I'll be doing it on hard mode while trying not to die. Same goes for my teammate, Immortal Ghost, and this mission is when you finally get a taste of what the Deluxo can really do, because it's now been upgraded with Lester tech, and that means it can fly and shoot missiles. We don't do that right away because we need to tail a few stockades around town and stick close to them while downloading some data, and then we do the same thing in hover mode on the water where we tail these boats and steal their data as well. But soon afterward, once phase 1 is done, you get to chase down this giant cargo plane in your flying car, and this is where you run the final stage of the hack. This part of the mission is quite exciting as it involves flying, shooting at Valkyrie helicopters, and at the end, once your data hack is complete, you fly back with the Deluxos and deliver them to the drop-off right here. This was a pretty exciting mission, and we've got more of these coming up in the heist, so you definitely want to stick around for those. Next, for setup number 3, we'll be using our other toy, the Akula stealth helicopter, to land on the Noose HQ and infiltrate their server farm, where we're going to steal even more data so Avon Hertz's AI Clifford can process all of it and tell us who the enemy is. Yes, there's a lot of data theft in this first act, but then again, it's literally called the data breaches. So now you know what you're signing up for as soon as you play this act. By the way, we have to be extremely careful inside the Noose HQ, because if we alert anybody on the way in, they'll put the base on lockdown and it's gonna fail the mission just like this. I honestly don't know how the heck someone got alerted when we haven't even made contact with a security guard yet and we're still on the roof, but hey, that's just life. At least we didn't die and we haven't failed the challenge just yet. For round 2, we did successfully make it down those extremely tall ladders, and then immediately after that, my teammate alerted a security guard. So we did another retry, and I just had to check my Doomsday Heist Award progress from the menu to make sure that Criminal Mastermind was still active, which it was, thankfully. So now we head into the rear of the base while stealthily assassinating any guards in our way, and it's nothing but headshots for me, because if you slip up and allow a guard to breathe for even a second after spotting you, he's going to immediately radio in your position and it'll raise the alarm across the entire base. Eventually, we find the head of security, convince him to take a nap, and then we grab the access codes for the base from his pockets. After that, we get into the server room through the back entrance, and this is where things get even trickier here, because you've got enemies on top, on bottom, in front of you, behind you, and on both sides. There are people everywhere in the server room, and it's a maze of corridors, corners, and blind spots, so your best bet honestly is to take this path on the edge of the room and follow it straight ahead, because if you try to navigate through the middle, you'll inevitably walk into a security guard and blow your cover. Once you arrive at the objective, you gotta do this little hacking minigame, and it's not really that difficult, but what is difficult is the fight that begins immediately after you complete that hack. In typical Rockstar Games fashion, as soon as you finish hacking all 4 servers, the game automatically breaks your stealth and alerts the whole base to your position, at which point you have to fight your way through a small army of Noose agents, make it all the way back up to the roof, get inside your Akula, and fly away. You need heavy weaponry like a minigun to make it through this crapshoot, honestly, and I also suggest keeping an eye on your armor and health levels at all times, because there's literally dozens of enemies parked outside in the courtyard, and they've also got helicopters in the sky, so even when you're on the roof, you aren't totally safe. We did, however, manage to escape this tricky situation without losing any lives. Then we activated stealth mode on our Akula and flew back to Sandy Shores, successfully completing the last setup for Act 1, which means it's now time for the data breaches finale. My cut is 70%, so I'll get $853,000 if everything goes according to plan here. And here's the mission briefing. We're gonna go to the IAA headquarters, but not infiltrate it. Instead, we're the rescue team. A bunch of Merryweather thugs have assaulted the place with heavy weaponry, and it's our job to prevent them from hacking the sensitive data stored on the servers, so we can get Agent 14 on board with our plans to save the country from this imminent terrorist attack that Avon has warned us about. Sounds convoluted, I know, but the mission is actually rather simple here. You go to the base in Grand Sonora, blow up any hostiles standing near the satellite dishes, then you go inside and gun down the intruders. One by one, I went through each floor and each room, clearing out the trash with my minigun. Then, me and my teammate, well, we controlled these gun cams, which are hooked up to the defense turrets outside the base, and we use these turrets to blow up a whole bunch of Merryweather helicopters, armored vehicles, as well as foot soldiers. It was a lot of fun, basically an old school turret shooter section that you'd find in most single player action games from the 2000s, and at the end of it, we got this cutscene with Agent 14 and his colleague, and this successfully completed Act 1. We failed the Elite Challenge, but I still made $853,000. More importantly though, my Criminal Mastermind 2 challenge is still active, and we're about to go through Act 2, aka the Bogdan Problem. Once more, we've got a few setups to do, but before we get to these setups, we have to first complete our prep missions, of course. There are 5 prep missions this time, as opposed to 3 in Act 1, and the number of setups has also gone up from 3 to 4. Our first prep mission is called Key Cards, and as you can guess from the name, we're about to steal some key cards in this one. The target is a police riot van, and I'll help protect it from the air while my teammate drives it back to the facility. Or at least that's what I'd originally planned to do before realizing that it would be a whole lot faster to just airlift the van and drop it off at the facility. So that's what I did instead, and we completed the mission in 4 minutes. After that, I did the ULP intel prep where I had to take out some drug dealers with an Oppressor Mark 1 so we could locate Agent ULP, who's unfortunately been kidnapped here. Halfway through the mission, I realized I could just call in my Mark 2 and finish the job a whole lot faster, so that's exactly what I did. While killing the remaining dealers inside this apartment, I ran right past a pair of ambush artists and nearly got my head blown off, but I recovered just in time and managed to escape the area with my life. This is just a prep, so deaths here don't count towards the mastermind challenge, but I'd prefer to make this whole thing a clean, no death run all the way through because it's just more entertaining that way. Also, it's good practice for the setups where deaths do count. We then did the riot control van prep mission where we steal, you guessed it, a riot control van after fighting some rioters with tear gas, and I think this is one of the exceedingly few missions where you actually get to use your tear gas, which is otherwise the most useless throwable in the entire game. And while I wasn't the one doing all this stuff because my teammate handled the rioters off screen, I still brought in the Iron Mule to help deliver the RCV to the facility, which can take an eternity by the way, because you have to drive it from the heart of Los Santos all the way to Chumash or Paleto Bay or wherever your facility may be, and it's a very long drive in such a slow vehicle. For the next prep, we're going to steal a couple of Strombergs, and once again, the Iron Mule comes in super handy here because without it, you'll have to drive the Wastelander trucks halfway across the map, and it can take you a very long time. I don't want to bore myself though, so I'll just use my heavy lift cargo chopper to get the job done much faster. Yes, I picked up the truck while it still had the NPC driver in it. No, he didn't manage to drive away because I landed my Iron Mule next to him and put a few rounds of 5.56 in his brain. What's annoying about this mission though is that even though there's just 2 of us, we still have to collect all 4 Strombergs, and the toughest part is chasing those damn blips across the map because they're constantly moving, and I'm happy I bought the Iron Mule earlier in this series for my vehicle cargo episode, otherwise this mission would have been a total snooze fest. Prep number 5 is torpedo ECUs. So right now, our Strombergs are kind of naked underwater because we don't have any offense. But once we steal some black market ECUs from these arms dealers, we're going to have a solution to our little Bogdan problem. After killing the world's most elusive jet ski NPC, I boarded this barge, and on it, I found a bunch of enemies, along with the ECU, which was tucked away neatly right next to these green crates and a duffel bag. I then provided air cover for my teammate who flew in with the second ECU, and we successfully delivered both of them, completing the mission. We then did the 4 setups for Act 2, and this is where things got a little hairy, because in the second setup mission, Rescue ULP, where we assault a foundry full of bad guys to save Agent ULP, I was running cover detail on the outside, while my teammates went inside to escort ULP, and while they were bringing him out, I tried to climb down these ladders, but I missed my footing and fell all the way down. Thankfully, I managed to force shut down the game just in the nick of time while my character was still falling to his death, and I never actually got the death screen, so the mission was saved with a quick retry, and all was good here, because we safely delivered ULP to the drop-off on our second attempt. Also, the first setup mission for Act 2, you know, the one where you fight a bunch of Merryweather thugs inside the hangar while using night vision, that's probably one of the toughest setup missions you can do in all of GTA Online, because if you don't know exactly where to position yourself for maximum protection and you don't have good aim, you'll eventually go down to a hailstorm of enemy fire, and to stay safe, you want to start out with these pillars right by the entrance. You can use a minigun, heavy sniper with a thermal scope, RPG, whatever you want, but take out the first wave of enemies ASAP, and only then should you advance carefully to the second floor where you'll spawn the next wave. I messed up and didn't bring the thermal scope for my heavy sniper, which would have made this fight a whole lot easier, but we were still able to complete this mission without dying, and we returned home inside the Avenger. Setup number 3, salvage hard drives, was an endurance test because you drive around town in the RCV, blasting through one enemy camp after another, collecting these stashes of hard drives. And the tactic here is simple. One guy collects the drives, the other stays in the RCV to extinguish the fires and provide cover with the water cannon. In the final phase, you have this massive roadblock full of enemies in every corner, and once again, a single guy has to dismount and collect the drives while the other uses the RCV's water cannon and armor to create a mobile shield for him. We made it through without any issues, and then we got to the 4th and final setup for Act 2, which is submarine recon. This one wasn't exactly boring, as you go underwater underwater and destroy all these sea mines with your Stromberg's torpedoes, and you also have to sneak up on a giant submarine to scan it, but it sure felt less kinetic and less dynamic than the other setups, and there was a whole lot less fighting as well, which is fine because we've had straight up non-stop combat for the last 3 setup missions, and I appreciated the change in pace here. Then we finally got to the finale of Act 2, aka the Bogdan Problem, and I'm not here for money making, so I won't be attempting any glitches, but I'll still make over $1.1 million from this mission with my 65% cut, and I'll also be doing most of the heavy lifting as I'm the one going underwater and into the submarine. My teammate hovered in the air with the Avenger to provide overhead cover from enemies, while I used the Stromberg to go underwater and infiltrate the submarine. Inside, I didn't want to take any chances, so I pulled out the old minigun once again and laid waste to everything in my path. Peeking and pre-firing around corners are going to be your best assets in this mission, so use them and you won't get ambushed by some camper who guns you down from full health to 0. Once you plug Clifford into the console, it'll be revealed that we've been lied to this whole time, because Avon's AI has gone rogue and has decided to wipe out all of humanity. The two of them have settled down into an old missile base on the side of a mountain, with the AI planning to start a nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia, which is inevitably going to result in an all-out, mutually assured destruction and worldwide nuclear annihilation, with hundreds of millions dead just within the first day alone. Of course, we can't allow any of this to happen, so it's time for Act 3 of Doomsday, where we save the world, and this one's aptly named the Doomsday Scenario. This is also the toughest and most intense piece of PvE story content in all of GTA Online, especially if you're going for that criminal mastermind challenge, because you'll face a ridiculously high amount of enemies in the finale, and even with a minigun and high explosives, it'll be a total pain in the butt to get through because there is zero margin for error here, but we'll blow up that bridge when we get to it. So first, let's do the preps and the setup missions. As always, we've got even more of these compared to the first 2 acts, with 6 different prep missions and 5 different setup missions that we need to do. And there's one setup in particular that I know is going to be extremely tough, and that's the Rescue Agent 14 mission, where you guide a brain-dead NPC through a half-mile-long murder corridor full of AI-powered stormtroopers while also fighting off minigun-wielding juggernauts who have invisibility cloaks, and the entire time you're praying the NPC doesn't go out on a whim and die randomly to enemy fire, because that's one thing that you can't control. Oh, and by the way, there's attack helicopters and armored trucks too, because clearly the endless waves of AI bots and the invisible juggernauts aren't enough. We got through the enemies no problem, but my heart sank when Agent 14 got stuck on this piece of chain link fence, like an idiot, and just as I thought that this was going to be the end of my criminal mastermind challenge, I remembered that I own an up and atomizer. I carefully aimed at the top edge of the fence so as not to damage Agent 14, and this fixed the issue because now his AI was able to run away and enter the Akula. There was only one other setup that provided a similar level of excitement to this, and that was the Escort ULP mission, where you drive a Chernobog along the highway and you end up blowing up a bunch of aerial threats who are trying to kill Agent ULP. First, we had to infiltrate this construction site and deal with Avon's security team of factory-made clones, and this is where we got our hands on the Chernobog. I recommend bringing a vigilante along for this mission because its accurate homing missiles as well as bullet-resistant glass provide everything you need to deal with enemies effectively and safely here. Then, after stealing the Bog, we made it to ULP's position, and he's being chased by a bunch of Valkyries, but the Chernobog can't fire unless it's stationary, so every time we spot a wave of bad guys, we have to stop, and only then can we shoot down the enemy helicopters. Somehow, while the 2 of us were stuck at this enemy checkpoint, ULP died instantly, even though he had half of his health left. I went for round 2, and this time I ignored the ground targets and kept on driving, and stuck closer to ULP even though there were a bunch of enemies on my trail, and I only stopped the truck when I noticed the enemy choppers doing damage to ULP, so this allowed us to complete the mission without our man dying off screen. Then we did the barrage setup, the Kanjali setup, and the air defenses setup, and we're now ready for the big Act 3 finale, where we go to the root of the problem and take it offline permanently. But this won't be an easy task because the base is heavily guarded. Fortunately for us, we have that Kanjali that we stole earlier, so we can ride through the initial wave of hostiles and blow everything to shreds with our big bad sci-fi tank. A few of those annoying Clifford juggernauts showed up at the end of the access tunnel, but the Kanjali's railgun dealt with them in absolutely no time. We can't advance any further, so we'll have to get out of the tank, get on foot, and actually play the game with our own 2 hands, which basically means equipping the minigun here and mowing down everybody on my screen. I have to be very careful with my positioning, and I can't walk out in the open like a total idiot like usual because I'll have to save my snacks and my armor for the final phase of the mission, the one where we hack into the servers, and there, one guy has to hack while the other runs protection. And if you don't have armor or snacks for this, you won't last through the hacking phase because there are literally endless waves of enemies who keep spawning over and over, and this is one of the few times where you actually have to refill minigun ammo because you'll run low halfway through the fight. After this funny little cutscene with Clifford where Lester ego trips him into opening the bunker doors, I made it into the central server room, and as you'd expect, this place was also overflowing with bad guys. The two of us advanced carefully, bounding from cover to cover and carefully inspecting every single hallway, every single door here before advancing. I got to hacking while my teammate took up protection duty, and right as I was exiting the first hack, this one guy caught me off guard and I was stuck in my recovery animation, but I managed to armor up just in time and take him out. Then we advanced towards the second hack, and once again, I played the connect the dots while my teammate played the connect the bullets to the enemy heads, and we got through this one in a couple of minutes. But I'll be honest here, when you're staring at that hacking screen surrounded on all sides by enemies, it can feel like an eternity because you know you can die at any moment if your teammate isn't paying attention to his surroundings. Luckily, my teammate was quite attentive, so we finished the second hack and then I did the third one. Now we just have one more hack left before we take Clifford offline forever, and that's the fourth hack. Done. Right now, the facility is in total meltdown mode, and Clifford's cloud servers are moving around on some MOCs, so we'll have to finish off what's left of the security team. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. All 4 mobile cloud servers have now been erased from the face of this earth, and Clifford AI is officially dead. Well, I mean, there's still the source code, and Avon is actually fleeing with it right now, so we're gonna chase him down in these jetpacks and send him straight to hell along with his AI slot bot. There are some helicopters trying to stop us, but they can't survive my thrusters missiles. And that's Avon, dead and out of the AI game. He's gone, along with whatever was left of Clifford's source code, which means the Doomsday Scenario has been averted, and I'm getting nearly $1.5 million as payment for my efforts. But did I also get the Criminal Mastermind 2 achievement? That's a loyalty. Come on, where's CMM2? Yes! We did it, boys. We got Criminal Mastermind 2, the hardest achievement in all of GTA Online. And I'm also $3.3 million richer after doing all 3 Doomsday acts today. That does it for this episode. In Bum to Billionaire 16, I will be grinding one of the best businesses in the game, and along with that, I'll also be unlocking some pretty unique ammo and weapon mods, so you guys definitely will want to tune in for that. And who knows, maybe sometime in the future, I'll also secure the OG Heist Criminal Mastermind Challenge, now that I've already completed CMM2 for Doomsday. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Drop a like if you guys found it entertaining and enjoyable and informative. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/hazardoushtv. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, adios amigos.